Welcome to the Chingona Living Show, the place where healing meets poder. I am Anabel Quintanilla, spiritual life and wellness coach for Chingonas. And today, our very first guest of the Chingona Living Show is Janette Navarrete, who I'm going to give the floor to so she can introduce herself. ¿Quién eres? ¿De dónde vienes?
Ooh.
And one cool thing that you want to share about yourself before we dive in.
Okay, thank you. Gracias. Thank you for the invitation, first of all. I'm so honored. Having been a previous podcast host and doing all of this before, I know that side of it. So it's kind of fun to be on this side of it and to get to share in this like really cool space. So gracias for that. I really appreciate it. Who am I? No tenemos suficiente tiempo. Like, we don't have enough time to get all into it. My name is Janette Navarrete. How old am I? I'm 34. I am from Southern California. I am a pastor. I am also a student in seminary as well right now. I am a wife. I'm a daughter, I'm an amiga, and I'm a mom to 5 chickens and a puppy. So, I got a few things on my plate, but I'm loving everything. One cool thing that I want to share about me, I don't know. I think part of what we will eventually talk about is I a double Sagittarius. So for all of my astrology girlies, my sun and moon sign are Sagittarius, which is the like go, like the horse. It is like move, run forward, go for it. It is that vibe. And even through all of the scary things in life, I have been very much about that, about just going for it and trying things and jumping in with both feet. Um, and so, yeah, I think that's one of the things, if I'm going to say, like, oh, that's something kind of cool, I would say that.
A double Sagittarius.
Yes.
I'm not an astrology girly. I don't know much about astrology. I do know that I am Pisces and
Ooh,
Aries
okay.
rising.
Okay. Okay.
So
That
I
makes
I have
sense.
fire in me, and then
Yes.
there's this, like, gentle side of me. I don't really know, but I'm really glad that we have no
Yes.
agenda for today. I'm
Yeah.
really glad that we're just gonna have an honest conversación, and that's kinda one of
Mhm.
the things that I love to talk about is, like, conversaciones reales, vulnerables, the kind of conversations that you need to be having with your amigas and with your coach, your
Mhm.
mentor, and your therapist. But we don't, right?
Yes,
Because
that
we
part.
tend to censor ourselves. So
Yeah.
you've ever since I've met you, now that I know that you're a double Sagittarius and I know what
Mhm.
that means, that explains why ever since I've met you, there's always been like this go,
Huh?
go energy about you. Have you always, desde niña, remember being like this?
I think so. I mean, and everything is like a double-edged sword, right? Like it's great for when you're like wanting to advance, but there's also the not knowing when enough is enough. Like I have to tell myself sometimes like calmate. Like okay, we made it this far. We don't have to like keep pushing, hustling, burnout, right? Again, like double fire is great in those moments when we are in that push time, which I've had many in my life. In my young 34 years, I've had many already. And then there's also the flip side where you could burn out really quickly from doing that. And so, yes, most of my life has been the like forward movement is the best way for me to describe it. I've tried things and just jumped in and not even always knowing exactly why. Like everything for as I think the earliest time I have a real memory of it was high school. And I was in like theater stuff already. I'm a stage manager by trade. And so I was like, in middle school, I was like, I want to be an actress. I want to be on Broadway. I want to sing and dance and travel and do all the things. That did not work out. And that's okay. I love being on stage. It's fun. Obviously, I'm not shy. I can talk to people. Um, but I really fell in love with the behind the scenes and the tech theater and the stage management and the like putting things together and bringing chaos and making something beautiful. And the first time I remember really taking that leap was I had a friend who was a stage manager for a show, and she was really struggling. And she, I think, naturally was like, is very introverted. And so I'm like, I don't know why someone who would rather not be managing a bunch of people and a bunch of personalities, they were handling this task. And so there was a moment where I realized I could do that. And I had never done that before. So I didn't know why I thought that I could. There was just something about seeing the situation and thinking, oh, I can do that. And so I talked to my director, my teacher at the time, and I said, oh, for the next show, I want to do that one. And I just jumped in, and that's the first time I really recognized me jumping in that way, head first, 2 feet in, and just saying, I'm gonna try this new thing. So looking back, I saw that I don't know. I think there's a knowing. I don't know what else to describe it as, because I jumped into wanting to do this position that my friend, I saw her struggle with it. So I don't know why I thought, oh, I can do a better job. I had zero training in this. I had never done this before. Nothing around me said you would be good for this other than this I can do that moment. And I was like, that's a little cocky, right? That's a little like, okay, that's a lot. And I did it. I went for it. I talked to my director and I said, hey, can I do the next show? Like, I feel like I can do this. Again, I don't know why. I don't know where I got the like, I don't know. I just did. And looking back again, it was that moment of, all right, I just followed that. I followed this knowing, and I loved it. I fell in love with the idea of this work. I fell in love with tech theater, all these things. And so looking back a few years after that, again, you know, you're young when you're in high school and you're not always like understanding the things that are happening. And it was a few years later that I was like, oh, that was interesting. I just kind of jumped into this and I went for it. And so I kept doing that. And I did theater for a very long time. I did it professionally. I did community theater. I did theater in college. And eventually then I moved to other things. Again, also things that I had never done before that I just was like, I could do that. And I did them, you know? And I know I love that our connection is through our primas, which was the first event that I did. So my cousin, who is like my big sister, Cynthia, her wedding was the first one that I did, and it was just for fun. It was not paid. I was one of her bridesmaids, and she said, hey, can you just help us, you know, stay on time? Can you help us with this? And I was like, yes, I can do that. And so it was this other moment of like, yes, I can. And I just went for it and then eventually pivoted. And that's just been the running story in my life. And so eventually, once I picked up that pattern, I was like, okay, when it doesn't feel right, I know to not move. And I think that discernment is important, because then we'll just be jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
But then
It's so interesting because you said earlier that you didn't know that this is how you operated, the go, go, go. You didn't know that it was the whole double Sagittarius thing.
Yeah.
That there are times where you've said to yourself, okay, cálmate. And so I want to talk a little bit about calma, but what's interesting is that you said you didn't know, but you know when it's time to calm down. And then sometimes you say you're following an inner knowing, which tells me that you're also a very intuitive person. So my question there is, because I mean, we could go with, you know, how much room is there in your life right now as a pastor and as a wife and as a caretaker for your elderly parents? How much room is there for JJ, the wedding planner, right? But I really want to talk about this because this question is pressing on me.
Yeah.
¿De dónde viene tu calma? When you say to yourself, okay, cálmate, it's time to calm down, where does that calm come from for you?
Oh, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. I'm going to start with your question of how much space is there, and the space is growing. I think as I am understanding, I'm holding more and more people as a pastor. I'm not working the business anymore. So JJ the wedding planner is taking a real break right now. But Pastor Janette, like as I'm recognizing how much I have been holding and will hold now as things continue to change, I'm recognizing I need to take care of myself even more to be ready to hold others, because it's a lot to just be a friend, right? And you're holding your friends thoughts and experiences and all of that, and then to be a life coach, and then to be a pastor, it's like you're holding people in a lot of different stages. And so I'm recognizing what I'm giving out, I need to give to myself and more. Like I can only give from the abundance. Like, and I've tried giving from the burnout, and no one wants that. No one wants
Mm.
that. And it's not good for me. And if I'm trying to preach or teach that we are all created in God's image and that we are all worthy of love and care and attention, then hi, JJ, that's for you too.
Yeah.
That's for me too. And for me first.
Oh,
It has to be. It has to be, right? And that's scary because like our parents taught us like humildad, right? They taught us like self-sacrifice. They taught us to give for our family, that blood is the most important thing. And like yes, and the only way that I could give those things without becoming resentful, without getting myself sick, because there is a high rate of caregivers actually passing before the people they're caring for because of the
mm.
level of stress and the lack of care for themselves. So I'm like, I don't want to be that statistic.
Yeah,
I
you're
don't want to be
absolutely right.
that. And so the care has to be me first. Little JJ, teenage angst JJ, college wild child JJ, and now grown woman, wife, caregiver, pastor. Like all of those have to come first so that I can give. And so I think that knowing for me, where does the calma come from? It comes from knowing how loved and how cared I am by God, by my community, by the people that have been sent to pour into me. Um, and that's the part I just feel so lucky and so grateful. Like, God knew how to send people in my life that could speak into me, that then I could turn around and do for others as well.
Yeah.
And that has been everything. It's been
Yeah.
everything in knowing this is how we do it in community, in comunidad, in these conversations, and changing what we were raised with. Our
Yeah.
parents did their best. They taught us to be hard workers, to move forward, to do well, to follow authority and orders and do all these things. And they got us here. They got us to wherever they got us to, and now it's on us to do the rest. And then we continue showing future generations what that looks like. And so that's where it comes from for me, is not wanting to be burnt out, not wanting to lose my joy for life, recognizing that I, like everyone else that I love, is created in God's image. Um, and that's what I hope to give. Every time that I think about what I'm doing, I think about how my nieces and nephews are looking at me. They're my next generation right now. We don't have babies yet, maybe one day, but it's my nieces and nephews. They're looking at me. They're looking at obviously their parents and my siblings, but also as a tia, as
Mhm.
someone who has chosen a little bit of a different path in life. They're looking at that, and how do I want them to take care of themselves? That's how I have to treat myself, with
Yeah.
love,
Oh gosh.
with respect, with giving myself boundaries, with putting boundaries for others, all of that. And so I'm like, I can't be preaching it if I'm not practicing it, right? So
Yes. Amen.
that is,
Amen, sister. Amen.
I mean, it's been a long time coming, right?
Yeah.
We learned these lessons the hard way, like, allo. it's just hard. Like
A lo
these
bruto.
a lo bruto, yes. Like it just, right now, if someone's listening, it's like, well, of course, like she's a pastor, of course, like she, gets this. This has been hard earned to learn this
Yes, yes.
lesson. And I went through many times where I didn't learn this lesson. Eventually, I learned the lesson. And now, when you know better, you do better. And that's what I'm doing.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that kind of leads into my next question because you mentioned burnout, you mentioned cultural programming, right? The self-sacrifice, primero están los hijos, luego está la familia, luego, like, we're last on the list.
We're not even on the list.
Sometimes we're not even on the list. You're right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
mentioned boundaries. I want to know what has been the biggest obstacle that you've had
Mhm.
to jump over to get to that place of primero yo.
Mhm.
Primero yo, because we are better humans when we put ourselves somewhere at the top of the list. So what was the biggest hurdle to overcome?
Oh my gosh. People pleasing. People pleasing, like wannabe martyrdom, this idea of if I don't do it, no one else will do it. If I don't hold all of it, it's all going to fall apart. And that's a lot. A lot of it comes from trauma, right? Of having a very chaotic home, having mental health issues in the home, having drug abuse in the home, having
Yeah.
workaholism in the home. So then what does little JJ think? She thinks, I have to hold it all together.
Yeah.
I have to be the one who is movable, who is changeable, who can tap into other people's emotions and become hyper aware of other people's thoughts and needs, so much so that like she gets forgotten. So
Yeah.
much so that it hurts. And it's like it's all of these things, and thank God for therapy because that has been
Yes.
a massive part of this. Again, I know it's one of those things that we Latinos don't like talking about. Having a person who does have serious psychiatric and mental health issues in my family, I recognize, first of all, therapy isn't just for them, it's for all of us. We all need it. We're all
Yes.
raised with, like you said, some kind of cultural programming. And we also, just as kids, because our brain is not fully developed, we pick up things that aren't even really real, and then we have to work through that. And so that has been a big piece for me of working through the hurdle of I'm not the only one who is holding this. I don't have to burn myself to keep someone else warm. I heard
Mm.
that quote one time after this massive blowout fight that I had with my dad. And I was like, no more. And I was like, no more. I just can't do this anymore. I've done it my whole life. I think I was like 27 when I just had this epiphany moment of like, I'm just not going to do that anymore. I'm like almost 30 years in. There's no way, it was enough.
Yes.
Enough was enough. And I think there are things in life that are gradual learning processes, like what I was saying early, that I had to go through and learn a lot of those lessons over and over again before they stuck. But that moment of enough, it's like this split moment decision of no more. Like it was a true turning around moment for me of taking care of me. I'm like, how I can't imagine. I was thinking to myself at that point, I'm like, I can't imagine like doing these things and hurting myself to take care of others, to the point I'm like, what about when I have kids? What about when I'm
Yes.
married? What about when I have a different career? What about all these other things? I'm like, am I really gonna just keep letting myself fall into these patterns? And I was like, nope, that had to be it. And honestly, it helped my relationship with my dad and family in general when I was like, I can't. And I'm like, I'm not putting this on you because boundaries are not for others, they're for us. And I just had to stop saying, or had to start saying, no more, no
No
more.
more. No more.
Yeah.
How do you help somebody as a pastor, and for everybody who's listening here, and we're going to get into the conversation about God, and
Mhm.
I will go ahead and preface this section of the conversation. I'll go ahead and say it now, and then I'll ask my question. Jeanette was a huge part in getting me to walk with the Jesus that I know today. She was a huge part of my very special part of my spiritual journey. And I'm very grateful because I fully believe that had I not met you, I know I would never have met Harbor, but also I don't know that I would have a relationship with Jesus. Don't know that I would have a relationship with God. I wouldn't have a relationship with Mary because I was so burnt
Huh?
out by
Yeah.
the religious dogma that I had been exposed to for my entire life. But so we're going to get into the conversation about God in just a little bit, but back to people pleasing and back to learning how to take care of yourself. What would you tell your people as a pastor, as a friend, as a woman, as a Latina, a woman who is struggling to find safety in saying enough, a woman who is struggling to feel safe with putting down the people pleasing, what would be the most valuable piece of advice that you could give her to start to create that feeling of it's okay to say no?
As you started the question, I didn't know what my answer was. By the time you finished it, it's community. It's
Mm,
putting yourself around people that are also doing that, and putting yourself around people that are not weak. In the what I mean is that they don't take the boundaries personally, that they are encouraging you to take care of yourself, someone that you can see, oh, they've done this, it's safe enough to do that. And I actually really credit my husband for that and showing me what it looks like to have boundaries and to take care of yourself. My husband is 10 years older than I am. And so, as when we first got together, he was already 10 years ahead, had lived this life experience and moved in the world in this certain way that I'm like, man, I wish I had more of that. And it's like, yeah, I can
I
have more
can.
of that. I can, be around more people that are doing that, that are holding boundaries for themselves and holding themselves to a certain standard. And then, and so I would credit my husband as being one of the first people that I learned that from. But then as I started shifting and started looking for people like that, then it's like my sisterhood, my
Mm,
community. I got so lucky to be in a circle of young Latina women who also taught me like what it looks like to take care of yourself, specifically as a woman, specifically as a nurturer, right? Many of my friends are moms, and I'm not a mom in that way, but I've been a caregiver and a nurturer for a long time, and I work with children, and it's a lot when you're giving in that way. And so I learned from them how to take care of yourself, how to set those boundaries. And the sisterhood events that we hosted for so long, that pod, our little group of five, like it's so sacred. And I'm so lucky that they're all still great and best friends of mine, of like, this is how we take care of each other in community. You find people who in themselves understand what it means to do life with someone who is also taking care of themselves. And that doesn't mean that like that we're guarded around each other. If anything, it means like if I go MIA because I'm struggling and I come back a week later and I'm like, I'm sorry, I haven't responded to your text messages or your memes on Instagram. Like, there's this understanding of like, that's okay. I'm still going to
yeah.
be here. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not going to run away because you're not there when I need you in the moment instantly. Those are the difficult patterns that we're all working away from. And so that's what it is. It's community, it's sisterhood specifically. And that care that comes from other women, whether they are biological, because I know some people have beautiful relationships with their biological siblings, etc., or it's chosen family. It's people that you meet that you're like, the God in me sees the God in you. And like connecting to that it's sacred. I don't know how else to describe
Yes.
that, but that's what it is. And
No, I
it's
think you
so,
did a beautiful job at describing that.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, comunidad and sisterhood.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a very small circle of friends. I have a very you're in my small circle. I have a
Thank you.
small circle with my soul sisters, and you're right when you said the people that you do life with, because I share myself very openly on social media, and a lot of people know a lot about what's happening. And oh, do you
Yeah.
granddaughter and pregnant daughter, and now the youngest, the postpartum one, has been in the hospital today. She's coming home, but today would be the fifth day. And so you see that. And it's not that I'm
Mhm.
trying to keep the ugly hidden. It's not that I'm pretending that there is no ugly. That's not true. There's a lot of ugly in my life.
Yeah.
And what I mean by ugly is just the stuff that isn't, it's the hard stuff, exactly, the real stuff, the real deep stuff. And I don't hide it on purpose. I I tend now to stay off camera when I'm going through it because I'm being present with the experience that I'm
Yeah.
having.
Yeah.
And I can't be present with something if I'm watching it through the camera as I'm recording it.
Mm,
That's the only
yes.
reason why I'm not sharing it. Um, but then I'll come back and I'll tell you, this is what I've been going
Yeah.
through for the last few
Yeah.
days, and this is how I'm
Yes.
handling it. You
Mm.
said the God in me sees the God in you. And coming from a very Catholic
Yeah.
background, both of us, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
that right there, like if anybody from the Catholic Church is listening to this and you choose to be offended, then Dios
Right.
te ayude, because I can't help you. Um,
Yes.
but how did you make the shift from
Mm.
the religious world, being a stage manager, to
Yeah.
being a pastor of First Disciples Church?
Mhm. Yes.
How did you listen to the God that you're listening to today?
My God. I don't even know. Like it has all been spirit. Because yes, I was raised in the Catholic Church. And my parents, I in a sense I got lucky that my parents were not like hyper religious. There were people that I know and congregants that we've had that were raised in this incredibly structured and conservative and heavy religious aspect. And so I think in a sense it worked for me that they weren't so much like that. There was enough religion to grasp it, to be there, to know it, to also to know that that's not what I wanted, at least in the way that I had seen it, right? But there wasn't so much that I had to fight so hard against all of that. I think there was a lot of openness, is what I'm trying to say. And so we started in the Catholic Church as a young kid. I think I was maybe 10 or 11 the first time that I was like, something's kind of fishy here. Like it doesn't, the vibe is off, right? As
Mm-hmm.
we say now,
Mm-hmm.
it's like we act one way while we're in church. We're in our Sunday best, and damos la paz, and like you do the whole bit, the whole show, and everyone's nice to each other. And then all of a sudden, we go outside, and people are rushing to leave. People are honking at each other, trying to exit. If someone cuts you off, you're getting flipped off. I'm like, what is happening? We are still in the church parking lot. And I was a kid. You know what I mean? I'm like, and even then, just like, uh, there's so much, again, as a kid, you can't verbalize what is happening, but there's still like formation going on. And I just recognize I didn't like that. I'm like, whatever this is, I'm not into. We're acting one way in here, and then out in the real world, we're acting differently. And so that actually led me away from church for a really
Mm-hmm.
long time. The rest of like whatever that was, elementary, middle, most of high school, not into religion at all, really, because I just assumed, because that was my experience, I assumed that everyone was like that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I was older, then in high school, I tried a couple different, like non denominational churches, and then I found there was a lot of the conservative, anti LGBTQ theology being spread out And I was not about it either. At that point, I didn't have a word for how I identified or how I saw myself, but I knew that in that moment, that was not it either. And so I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I tried Catholic churches and I tried Christian churches, then I must not belong in the church. I never,
Mm-hmm.
I never gave up on the idea of God though. And I think that was key. And I don't know why that happened. I really don't. I don't know why I never said no to God. I just said these structures, these people, these churches, these the way it's being expressed here, I'm not into that. And so I didn't go to church forever. And it wasn't until another 5 years or so that I found a church, and literally I Googled Christian church in North Hollywood. That's where I was living at the time. I found that first church. It happened to be a Disciples of Christ church that I knew nothing about. I didn't know anything about the denomination. I didn't even know there were
There
denominations at
was,
this
yeah,
point.
yeah. I didn't either.
No idea. But that was the start. And it was just always this like, maybe also because I'm a people person, like I wanted to be around people. That was the one thing that I did enjoy was the like community aspect. And so I'm like, I do still believe in God. There wasn't a time where I was like, no, there is no God. I never felt that. And so I was like, I want to bring that and be around people that also believe in God. And so at that point, I actually had also tried going back to Catholic church. I was like, nope, I was definitely not into that. I tried this one organization that I was like, not into that. Did the Google thing, checked out that church. That was the first one. And that was the first church that was open and affirming. I was at this point more secure in my own sexuality and my own sexual orientation, and being part of the queer community was really important to me, and finding a space that not just was like, oh yeah, sure, you can be gay, but like don't talk about it, right? There was like
Mm-hmm.
there's this hush thing that like don't ask, don't tell. And this was the first church that I found that was like, you are welcome in all of who you are, including your queerness, including your questioning, including all of it. And it's affirmed. It's not just like, oh yeah, but be hush about it. We affirm that you are created the way you're created by God. And that was like, poof, like everything opened up for me. I was like, whoa, I can be seen for who I am, and I can love others for who they are. And we can do this. That was really the first introduction to that idea. And then one thing led to another, me being who I am, getting over involved and everything. Started working with camp stuff, started working with the regional youth, met my dear friend BJ Barlow, who then that's how I met Sadie, and it just like all snowballed into where I am today. But it was always this knowing, believing in God, not knowing what that was supposed to look like, and then always wanting to come back to that community aspect.
Yeah.
And I think maybe for some people that's difficult if you're a little more introverted and you're like, I don't want the community part. And that's fair. Like, and that's the thing is, maybe it's a little controversial for me as a pastor at a local church to say you don't need a physical building church to be part of this community, right?
Yes.
You don't need that building to have faith, to have a relationship with God, to get to know more about Jesus as the person, as the saint, right? You don't need that. It's great to have that, and it is helpful, and it actually will help you grow. But I think we don't have to see that as the first step, and
Yes.
we have a lot of older church members who are like, I don't know why my kids are not, they don't want to come to church, and they don't know why that happened. They were raised in the church. And I'll be like, well, what good are they doing in the world? Oh, they give to this charity, they work on this thing, they go to the beach, they do this. I'm like, then they're doing it.
Yeah.
They're doing
Mm-hmm.
God's work. Just because it's not in this building doesn't mean it's not happening. God needs all of us everywhere, and God can meet us wherever we are, whether that is a building or the ocean or the mountains. Like, God is with us everywhere. And I think if we discredit people for the way that they experience spirituality, then we're only pushing them further away.
Yes.
We're
Oh,
only pushing them out of the church instead of saying, okay, we'll meet you there.
mhm.
Right? Like, that's, I think, our job as clergy, as lay leaders, is meeting people where they are. And we're not going to meet people that need church in the church. We're supposed to meet them where they are. And so that
Yes.
has been a big piece for me of telling people and encouraging them, to have their spirituality as they need it. And
Mhm.
that you're not bad for not wanting to be in a building yet, for not coming into the church yet. I get it. There's been a lot of harm that has happened in our communities. I don't blame them. That's what kept me away for so long. Eventually, I got there,
Absolutely.
and I pray that eventually everyone has a community. And now, though, with digital, with online, there's online communities, right? So for me, it's all about, right. And you're like the perfect example of that. You are out in Vegas, you're in Vegas, and your church is in Newport Beach, California. Like, it's possible, but it starts with your personal relationship and spiritual journey. And it's obviously great to have the community, as you see, like how fulfilling that is and all of that. But like, it starts with just you making that decision to continue that, to want to learn more and to lean in on that feeling that you have.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned a lot of things, and one of the themes that keeps repeating itself is the not knowing and still
Mm-hmm.
leaning in and
Yeah. Yeah.
letting this inner knowing that you don't really know what it means guide you. Um, because I think that we as the human beings in us, we're very
Mm-hmm.
egoic,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we need
Yeah.
answers and we need certainty. And our egoic minds they don't like uncertainty. So they rather make up things, right? Than to just sit
Literally.
in the unknown. And yet I think that that's one of the ways that one of the things that you've learned to embrace, and then you emerge in as this beautiful being. This next chapter of your life just kind of unfolds from this period of, I don't know. I'm just gonna sit here, and I always believed that there is a God, and I'm gonna see where that takes me. I don't have to have a clear path, which is very
Mm-hmm.
different from what we're taught with
Yeah.
religion. There is a set
Yes.
of rules there, what to do, what not to do, and there's no room for discernment. There's no room for
Mm-hmm.
what feels right for me. There's just no room. I mean, I still get judged a lot by family because I go to church online, because my actual church is 300 miles away. And then so they're like, "So you don't go to church?"
Really?
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I do. Sundays,
Yeah.
10 a.m., 18
Yes.
feet away from my bedroom is my
Yes.
church, right? Like, yeah, I do go
Yes.
to church.
Yes.
And they can't wrap their heads around it. Um,
Yeah.
you said you're being led by spirit. You mentioned spirituality. And for somebody who is struggling to connect with a God that feels, um, I don't want to say a God that feels good, but a God they can relate with. What would you say is the difference between faith and spirituality? And how can they be okay with the not knowing, the what's really the word I want to ask? What's really the question I want to ask? Um, because I think that there are a lot of people who have walked away from the church I know
from
there are a lot
religion.
of people. Yeah, from religion.
Yeah.
Exactly. They've walked away from church, they've walked away from religion, and they know that there's a God. They know that there's something out there, but their faith isn't, entre comillas, right? Their faith isn't what it once was. So how do we say, listen, there's a difference between faith and spirituality, and lean into this
Mhm.
thing that you've got brewing
Yeah.
inside. I'm hoping that the spiritual side of you is knowing the question that I'm trying to ask, because
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think
like,
so. And I think no, go ahead.
no, because I was going to say, because I was that person who had her faith tied to a specific religion, and when the religion part for me crumbled, I thought that my
Mhm.
faith
Mhm.
did too, because I didn't have anything to
Mm,
connect my
yeah.
faith to. I didn't know that spirituality was safe. Here, this is going to sound ridiculous. I thought that the only spiritual people in life were the people who did yoga. Like, I did not
Mm,
believe that I could be spiritual because I didn't know what that
yeah.
meant.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the key in all of this is the difference. I would say faith and spirituality are the same and religion is different. And the difference between being a spiritual person and being a religious person. Now, you may be both. You can be, how do I want to word this? You can be religious. How do I word this? What I'm trying to say is like spiritual is like the being, is you. We are all spiritual beings. Now, you can also be religious, like going to church, like organized religion. And I'm not even just talking about Christian religion, right? There's a lot of other faiths that you can be a part of. That's the religious, the practicing religion. I think that is the difference, is the inner knowing, the faith, the connection to your God, to your spiritual connection. And then there's the religious, the practical, the how we do life, what you do with this knowing. I think that there are people that are people of faith that are spiritual that then don't actively do that in the world. And that's not a bad thing, because I think the point is you connecting with your higher being, with your creator, with your God. That's you. And that's where we have to start. Like, you have to be spiritual before you can be religious, because if you're religious and not spiritual, then you're not. Then that's more hypocrisy. Then you're following a set of rules to fit in with the club, not because you're genuinely looking for relationship and connection to God. And I think for us and for me specifically, I'm going to move a little bit because this light is getting in my
Okay.
eyeball. I think for me specifically, when I think about the Christian faith, it's not just about the set of rules. It's not just like this hard and fast thing. It's seeing Jesus, the spiritual human. And there is theology that is very high church, very high, like spiritual, like Jesus was only spirit. Um, but I think forgetting the fact that Jesus was also a human, we miss out on so much, because we miss out on how he called us to walk and to do life. And he's like, you've got a relationship with God, you are one with God, God loves you, God is always with you. And once you know that, this is how you're supposed to act in the world. If you love me, if you follow me, feed my sheep. Over and over, he says that to Peter, who is like his biggest disciple, who is his like fiercest protector, who is his closest friend. And he's like, yes, of course I love you. Of course I love you, God. Feed my sheep. Feed my sheep. There's an action to the faith, but like that has to be your foundation, is the relationship, because otherwise what's the point? What is the
What's
point of following these rules? What is the point of showing up every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. to a building to what? Check off a box? Be a part
mm,
of this community? You could do that anywhere, right?
yeah.
You could do that anywhere. You could be part of a social club. You could go have brunch with friends and check those boxes off. But if you're not going to be spiritually fed, which is what we're supposed to receive at church, it's like, it's class. That's really what church should be like. It should be like class. Here's your tidbit of information. Here's
Hmm.
inspiration. Here's a moment of connection. Here's one more thing you can learn and apply this week. Now go and do it.
Yeah.
Because Jesus was not in the temple all the time. He didn't teach in the temple, right? That's not where his ministry was. It was
Right.
in the streets. It was with the people. It was getting out there. It was saying, this is where the work is supposed to happen. Yes, for some of us who have the title pastor, or people who are in leadership, yes, a lot of our work is in the church, but our job isn't to tell people you have to be here and this is the only way you act on religion. It's to say, okay, you've got this, okay, go do
Yeah.
it, go be a part of it, go change out there in your corporate office, in your yoga studio, in your school that you're teaching. That's where we do church. Right? That's where
I'm
we
so
do
grateful.
service.
Yeah.
That's where we're
I,
doing it. That's
yes.
the difference.
Yeah. And I love
Yeah.
that you mentioned that because it really does give permission to the people who are um, flagellating themselves for not going to church every single Sunday. And, that's considered a sin in the Catholic Church. Um,
Yes.
that's literally
Yeah.
right. Like it's a sin to not go to church
Yeah.
every Sunday. This conversation is giving people permission to be in relationship with God, to commune with God in a way that is a lot more meaningful than
Yeah.
that Sunday morning service just to be able to
Mhm.
check off a box.
Yes.
And as a life coach, as a spiritual guide, I and what I mean by spiritual guide, because I think that, well, you just asked this question about what is spirituality, but now you're telling me you're a spiritual guide. I am, because
Yes. Yes. You
for
are.
for me, spirituality really is about that that relationship to a divine source of energy that lives within, that is all around us. And it's about strengthening that connection, because the energy that this connection produces is different from the energy that our egoic mind produces. And our egoic mind is the
Yes.
one that is saying, well, you're not a good person because you don't go to church on Sundays, right? But yet this person could also be feeding the homeless, could also be volunteering at
Yes.
different organizations, can be saying hello to random people at the grocery stores. They could be, helping a mom who's pushing a stroller and
Yeah.
has a toddler on the other hand and has got 3, 4 grocery bags. Like
Yeah.
it's the most random things that are really
Yes.
where we get to demonstrate that we are doing God's work. So for those
Yes.
of you who
Yes.
are listening, who are like, I haven't gone to church in such a bad time, it's such a long time, I'm such a horrible person, I want you to take inventory of your actions
Mm-hmm.
in life over,
Yes.
the last few months, the last few years. And I want you to ask yourself, which are
Yeah.
all of the what are all of the things that I have done that tell me that I have been communing with God, that tell me that I have been
Yes.
doing God's work? And I want you to specifically train your mind to look for those things and those ways that say you are being a godly person right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
as a life coach, as a spiritual coach, I tell my clients all the time, the work that you and I are going to do for 1 hour a week or 1 hour every other week, that's not where the magic is
Mhm.
happening. The magic is happening
Exactly.
with the application of what you learn in this session.
Yes.
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 That's where the real
Absolutely.
transformation happens. So thank you for validating that.
Oh my gosh,
I
yes. And actually, I want to go back to something really fast that you said, that you talked about before I talked the last time. You said something about how um, when you left religion, how like that you thought that you all those things were broken, right? Like that you left, and so now you had no relationship with God. And I think that for so long is what empire has used to keep us bound. It has kept us within a structure. And again, it's kind of like ironic as a pastor within a structure to be saying this, but the mentality is different, right? It's we Christians and even the Hebrew people of the time that Jesus was a part of, there was this set rules. There's the church, there's the organization, there's the structure, and if you are not in the structure, you are not a part of the structure. And so you are not chosen, and you are not meant for this, and God's love is not for you. And Jesus came to abolish all of that, to change all of that, to fulfill all of the things that we thought we had to be doing, that we thought we had to be a part of, that we thought we had to know. That was all gone. And he it wasn't just about, hey everyone, like let's go to temple together, let's all come. And it wasn't not every story that we see Jesus be a part of says, and then he invited them to temple. Like no, like none of them actually say that, right? And not
Yeah.
that Jesus wouldn't have found his religion to be so important. I think he did. I think it's because he so loved his people, his religion, his faith, his God, his worldview and understanding, because he so believed in it. He was telling everyone else, it's not just this. It's not just this set of rules and regulations, those that are in and those are out. It's God's kingdom, right? His parables are God's kingdom are like, and is always giving these examples of like, God's kingdom isn't just in the temple. It's
Mm-hmm.
with the farmer, it's with the person growing, making bread, it is with the seed, it is with the flowers, it is with the birds, it's like out there. And this is all God's kingdom. And we should
Yeah.
act accordingly to each other. That's how
Mm-hmm.
we care for each other. It's how we be the God. It's how we
Yes.
are the God out in the world. And for so long, these religious structures have tried to hold that in place so that you don't want to leave it,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's like any abusive thing, abusive relationships, abusive friendships, abusive structures of religion. It is the same freaking pattern. If you leave this, you're going to be nothing.
Oh gosh, yes. And
That's
they
not
and
that's not what Jesus wants.
no, because you're right.
It's not
Jesus did. He was a big rebel. He was a rebel, and he said, Jesus is out, and God is out there, and God is also in here. And for me, that was when you were talking about the biggest hurdles and people pleasing, to get yourself to take care of you first. For me, that was also a hurdle that what mattered what mattered isn't just out there, it's also in here. And if what matters is also in here, that means I matter, and that means that I am to be cared for and I am to be loved. And that was a
Mm,
um similar learning experience for me as a Latina, as a eldest daughter, immigrant parents, like you name it, I'm it. And it's learning to take care of yourself as well. um
yeah.
I
Yeah.
I want to
Taking
know.
care of the temple.
Yes. I didn't think that I would be inviting people to church, to temple.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who are suffering, and I do intend to have Pastor Sadie as one of my guests also at the Chingona Living Show, because there is,
Yes.
she's got so much wisdom to share as well. I
Oh,
want you to speak
yeah.
to la comunidad latina, las mujeres latinas que han perdido su fe, that and
Mm.
maybe they haven't lost their faith, but we're just so fucking tired. We're we're
Yes.
we're tired.
Real.
And we have a lot on our plate, and you said it yourself, right?
Oh,
You're a caregiver. There's mental health in your family. There's addiction. There's workaholism. There's a lot on your plate. There's your own personal evolution. I'm thinking of women that are also like, but I'm a mom, and I have a full-time job, and my kids are young. They still require a lot from me. My husband doesn't understand. I have extracurricular activities. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. What is one thing that you can tell them that will allow them to put it all down, to
mm.
surrender, and to allow God to do some magic in them?
I would start with, um, I think for most of us, the idea of putting it down is impossible, right? I can just imagine people with young kids. It's like, I can't put my kids down. I can't, I literally can't put it down. And so I think it's a little less about putting it down and a little more of letting God hold it with you. And that
You're gonna make me cry.
I'm stop it. You're getting me real. I think it's that is it's like when you're doing yoga and you're like clear your mind and you're like how? I can't clear it all. It doesn't just disappear. We can't really. Yes, there are some things that we can put down, but we can't put down an elderly parent with health needs. We can't put down our children. We can't put certain things down all the time. And so I think it's less of so perfectly surrendering and just and letting God meet you where you are. And I think that is the beauty of tapping in to creation. And I think that is the beauty of spirit. I think that's the beauty of what Jesus was right, speaking from the Christian mindset, is that's what he was trying to tell us. The temple isn't some outside building. You are the temple. God dwells in you. And so God is with you. And as you are crying, God is crying. As you are hurting, God is hurting. As you are just freaking pushing through, finishing one more project with your kid at midnight because it's due tomorrow and they just told you, God is right there with you in all of the difficult moments, just like God is with us in the joyful moments, in those moments of fun and laughter and play. And God is with us in all of it. God is already there. You have to tune in to God being with you. And it doesn't take much more than closing your eyes and taking a breath. God is in every breath that we take from the beginning to the end. God is
Oh,
in each breath. And I think that if we can take one breath with God, that can be enough to center us for the moment, for the day. It's hard to say for the year, for the next decade, but for this moment where you are struggling, where you are crying out, where you have to put the kids to bed and you're trying to make dinner or you're doing all the things, you're ordering groceries online, right? Like when you're doing all of the things and you're trying to break all these chains and you're trying to heal your whole family, take a breath with God. Take that moment to be there and just say, just hold it, receive it. Every time I pray, whether it's just by myself or at church, I take an audible breath. And it's not always on purpose, but I think taking a breath that you can hear, it causes others to do the same.
yeah.
And it just slowly resets your nervous system. And
Uh-huh.
that's a lot. But like sometimes most of us are living moment to moment. And I wish that it wasn't that way. I wish that we did live in this beautiful Garden of Eden and we could just eat the fruit from the trees. And I wish that that was our reality. However, we live in a capitalist world and a patriarchal world and a world where we're go, go, go. We are way too connected online, where technology is dinging in our ear every 2 seconds. And sometimes all we can do is catch our breath.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
think that is what we come back to. Let God hold it with you. Catch the breath. Catch God. Know God is already with you and tap into that.
oh my goodness. That was very powerful. I feel like I'm back at church with you preaching. I am emotional about it. Thank you so much. Honestly, Jeanette, this has been a very helpful conversation. What does what does Pastor Jeanette need right now? What is one thing that we could
Ooh,
pray for you, that we could send good energy your
yeah.
way on? What is one thing?
Yes. It's funny because every time it's like the new year, everyone is talking about resolutions or what's your goal or what's your vision or what's your word for the year. And for me right now, and like in all the honesty, it's joy in the survival. This is going to be a really busy year for me. I am about to start full-time work at a new congregation, which includes everything, right? Like first processing leaving my previous church that has I'm so glad I took a few weeks in between because there's been a lot of emotion that has come up
Mhm.
because I'm so going to miss that. And this following God, this trusting in where God is sending me next has sent me here. And so it's a lot full-time work, school, caregiving, running around with my puppy, trying to have a life, hanging out with friends, right? There's just so much on my plate. And so I'm just holding the joy and the surviving in the we're just going to make it. We're going to bust our butt in school. We're going to work hard, but we're also going to take care of ourselves. We're going to have fun. We're going to play. We're gonna eat some good food that is nourishing, that feels good, that
Yes.
is yummy. I think it's just like tapping in because so many of us are in that like go 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 survival mode, and I really am in this season. I do also recognize that it is a season. There are seasons where we are about the go go go, the push, the hustle. That is the next like between now and July, or next
Uh-huh.
July, I should say, between now and the next school year. God willing, I will be done with school at that point. And then I will get to be in a different season and I will be able to move accordingly. For now, in this moment, I recognize the hustle that has to come, which then has to match the care for
Mm,
myself. In all of the ways. And so, yeah,
yeah.
I would just pray um, for me to remember that, to remember my
Yeah.
lessons, to remember to take care of myself first. Um, and yeah, that's my biggest prayer for this time. And for people that are listening, I'm feeling like I need to say that, you know, it's good to listen to things like this because it's inspirational and motivational, and to use that as an example that it can be done, not as an example that it's too hard to be done.
Ah,
Because I think sometimes we see someone achieve something, whether it's an actual goal like graduation or a raise or whatever, or emotional, like people might see us and be like, oh yeah, they're like so wise. And I'm like, but this should be an example of like why you can do it, like
yes.
with all of the mess that I had. And I know not everyone listening will know all of my mess, but trust me, there's a lot of messiness in my life, and still I have found this way. And so I hope that that is an example as to why it is possible for us to live a joyful life amidst all of the struggle and the pain, politically, within families, within our own health systems. We have to know that it's possible to enjoy this life that we've been given with community, with inspiration, and with tapping into that inner knowing of God.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for saying that. And thank you for asking for prayers that you be reminded that you are
Yes.
also
Yeah.
loved and special and worthy of good care. And so, for those of you who are listening or who are watching this episode, here's yet another opportunity for you to demonstrate how godly you are when you say your prayer for Pastor Janette, that she be reminded that she is worthy
I will
of
read
self-care and love as well. Yeah. Oh my God. See, we're already giving you people homework.
things.
Um, so I'm
I
gonna
know, I
end.
know. Sorry, you gotta make a
It's
list. You gotta
okay.
do all
It's
these
okay.
things.
In the show notes, I'm gonna go ahead and add your Instagram handle. I think you're public, so people can follow you and follow along in the
Yes.
journey and see your chickens and
Oh my
get to
God.
celebrate, yeah, your
Chickies, they're
chickens
so
and your
fun.
little puppy, your little baby puppy. Yeah, celebrate
Big baby.
where God is taking you now, because you're an example of all that is possible. And so I'm grateful that you mentioned that, because we do look at other people sometimes and we compare, and we know that comparison
Mhm.
is the thief of
Yeah.
all joy. And instead, you've reminded us to take a look at your life and look at all that is possible for everybody, right? Like, it's possible for you. It's possible for me. I know that you have served as a huge inspiration for me, because I also, my egoic mind was very comparing all the time and like very envious, and why
Mm.
her and not me? Why her and not me? And
Yeah.
now I see it
Yeah.
with, wow, if it's possible for her, it's possible for me. I don't want to be a pastor, but I know that if I could, if I wanted to, I could. And in some
Yes.
way, and Sadie
Yes.
says this
Yes.
all the time. She says, in some way, I know that I am also ministering. I know that I am also doing God's work. Um,
Yes.
so close us
Yes.
with this,
Yes.
because I want to know,
Mm.
for the person who's listening that might be asking herself, what is my purpose? What
Oof.
does God want for me? What is one thing that you would tell that person that'll allow her to listen or to act?
Mm. I have always loved the term and quote, bloom where you are planted. And I think sometimes we think purpose of being like this outside goal, this outside achievement. And I think it is about doing the best that you can where you are right now. And because life is cyclical, life has seasons, things change, everything from work wise, who you are in your family, how we change in age. Bloom where you are planted. Know that where you are now is where God wants you to be. And you will know when God is calling you somewhere else. I have had moments where I thought I was being called somewhere else and it didn't sit right. And I was like, I don't know, something about this. It doesn't sit right. Trust that. So many of us, women specifically, have been taught to not listen to our intuition. And when people talk about women's intuition, God gave us that gift for a reason. That's how a lot of the natural order works. We do have something within us that calls us and tells us when something feels right, and sometimes when things don't. And so if you listen and sit with yourself and know, is God calling me to move right now? No. Okay. I'm not meant to move right now. Am I meant to move this time? Yes, I'm ready to move this time. But if we don't let ourselves like sink into where we are right now, we won't know when it's time to move. And so bloom where you are planted, where you are right now. Look around, like what you said earlier. Take that inventory of all of the ways that you already are achieving whatever God's purpose is for you. And God's purpose for you is different than it is for me, right? Like that's the point, is we are all in different places for a reason. And so take that in where you are and think about, what does God want me to do here? Why am I in this job with this manager that I hate, or this, these people that I don't like working with? What are you called and meant to do in that space, And I think that's a big part of it, is sometimes we don't always get to choose where we're working. Sometimes we just need a job. Sometimes we just need to pay bills. Sometimes we're in those moments where we think we are stuck, where we feel like we have no purpose. But purpose is internal, it's not external. It's visually external eventually, but it starts inside. So look around, see where you are, see what you're already doing, and lean in on that. These conversations are so important. And if, mujeres out there, like if you don't yet have someone that you can text or voice message these types of conversations, because who has time to have a real conversation nowadays? Like barely, right? Like most of my conversations are voice messages back and forth with my best friends. If you don't have that, look for it. And it can start in a place like this show, what you're doing, Annabelle, the way that you host community, the way that you take care of women, the way that you speak about your experiences as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, as an abuela now. Like, it's so sacred what you're doing. And if someone's listening, they're like, I don't really have people like this in my life. Like, then tap in here. Like, Annabelle's community is sacred because it is the way she moves. It's the way that you move in the world. And it is your call. It is your ministry. You are walking in your path. It's how you've been able to walk away from all of the things that you have. And only you know all of the things that you've walked away from. And you're doing it. You're an example that we can all follow as well, and know it is possible. Even when you think, but I signed on the dotted line. It's possible to change and to choose yourself and to create a community like this. So thank you for what you're doing. And I'm grateful to be a part of it and to be in your orbit. And I'm so excited for whoever's listening to this and for whoever's ready to tap in.
As you can hear, we had some technical issues with today's recording, and yet we powered through because that's what we do as Mujeres Chingonas. I really hope that you enjoyed the very first episode of the Chingona Living Show. It is 2026. There will be more amazing guests like Pastor Janette Navarrete coming on to the show. I'm so grateful that you're here. I also want to invite you to follow me on social media at Chingona Living, @Chingona Living, and check out my website because I've made a lot of changes. Go ahead and navigate through, learn all about what is available for nervous system maestria, essential oil magia, midlife poder, and let's keep in contact, amiga. Have a beautiful and wonderful 2026.